Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Okay, great start. So today, guys, I wanted to talk to you about why does your Iman feel so unbreakable, so unshakable, strong in the beginning of your practice. I'm pretty sure all of you know what I'm talking about without even explaining it. When you first start practicing Islam, or when you first revert to Islam, it's almost like the honeymoon of your Iman. You want to do everything right, which makes all the worship light and easy. And then the more you continue to live your life and the more you adapt Islam as a way of life, as a lifestyle, little by little it starts becoming a little bit more like, I don't know how to call it, but I feel like sometimes it's kind of like it's so embedded in you that maybe prayer sometimes is almost like automatic. Oh, I have to pray. Okay, well, Bismillah, Alhamdulillah. It's almost like movements. It becomes like movement. Your prayers, you don't obviously seek knowledge as much as you did in the beginning. You don't listen to that many lectures, let alone attend that many lectures. Perhaps don't even hang around those brothers or sisters that you used to hang around when you first started practicing. You guys know what I'm talking about? Have you guys felt that, like that feeling of peak Iman, peak levels of Iman in the beginning? I like to call it sometimes when the da'wah hits you. When the da'wah hits you in the beginning and you start practicing, man, that level of Iman is indescribable. Especially if you, for those of you, some of you this might be very out of your world, but those of you who understand, those who find out about Salafiyah, those who find out about Sunnah, those who find out about the sects of Islam and about bid'ah and about shirk, and it's almost like this fear enters your heart of wanting to follow things correctly. So you start being very careful about a lot of things. And I feel like that stage, we all have gone through it. And I would almost, if it was halal, I will bet that all of you guys have experienced that. Let me know in the comments, because I'm very interested about that. And at the same time, it will push the algorithm as well. So it will motivate me to share this fawaid even more with you guys. But I have seen it so many times, and I experienced it myself, and that's what allowed me to take those steps, those drastic steps, to go to Egypt. And at that time I wanted to go to Yemen, to the Maj, and I didn't care about the war going on there, and I just wanted to seek knowledge. And I was almost, in a positive way, blind about anything other that wasn't knowledge. I just wanted to know anything that has to do with knowledge. I'm on it. But other than that, I wasn't interested. So the question is, what happens? What really happens? And I didn't come today to tell you it, but I want you guys to tell me, what do you think that happens when when that starts to dissolve, I guess, or you know, your Iman is not as strong. It's still there, but it's not as when you first started, and it's not enough for you to take those real drastic steps towards khair and towards knowledge and towards wanting to travel. And I remember once there is one brother that runs a business in Birmingham, and I remember I met him in around 2014, 2015. At that time is when my first time that I left Egypt because of financial problems and with the intention of finding a job. So I went to Birmingham, and I used to live in Small Heath, and I used to live by what they call Masjid Salafi. I don't know the actual name of it, but basically on I think the road is Coventry Road. So anyways, the point is, I met a brother, right? He was older than me and whatnot. Now he runs a business. He was busy with business and whatnot. And I guess we had a conversation about how motivated I was about seeking knowledge and these and that. And he told me something. He said, you remind me of me in the beginning of when I started practicing, when I wanted to go to the Maj. And then I started doing business, and that zeal and that, you know, raghba left. So I just remember that right now. And I know, this is why I know there's so many people that go through this. If not every single one of you that starts practicing or accepts Islam. So then the question is, what happens? I know that from the brother's side, what happens many times, which is what happened to me, for example, what happened to the particular brother that I'm referring to right now. What happens is that we get busy with a dunya. Responsibilities hit us in our face. We have children, you know, some perhaps wives too. You know, you have different families, different responsibilities. Basically, this is what Imam al-Shafi'i said: تعلم قبل أن ترأس فإذا ترأست فلا سبيل إلى التفقه. Learn before you become responsible, somebody with dependence and responsibility, because when you become that, you will not have a way to learn. Obviously this is exaggerated. You will still be able to learn, but what's meant is like not at the same level as if you was, you know, single, no children, no responsibilities, which is the case of when I first left to Egypt and my parents accepted to fund my studies, thinking that I was going for a 3-month intensive program. Then it turned out to me staying there for, or wanting to stay there for long years. So then what happens is that you just start living life. I guess it happens as well to many of us who do that in a young age, for early 20s. You know, we don't have no responsibilities. We start practicing, we accept Islam, and then life hits us in our face. So what I have realized in my own analysis, and I'm actually curious to see your analysis, guys. My own analysis is that it can go different ways. First way is, when this happens, is that you acknowledge it, and then you live your whole life just knowing it, with a, like, what's the word? Reminiscing, or like nostalgically thinking about that time when my Iman was this and that, how good it was. And then you just live the rest of your life like this, just dragging your deen, basically. Not learning, not improving, just accepting mediocrity in your deen. Then there's the second stage, which I think is my stage, which is when you acknowledge it, and you live your life nostalgically thinking about those times, and and then from time to time trying to do things to get you back there. And that's what happened to me, for example, this year when I went to Mauritania. Wallahi, for 14 years I didn't feel this feeling, and this time when I was in Mauritania I felt this feeling again. That feeling that we were talking about in the beginning, about that peak level of Iman. I felt it this time, and I felt it as well once that I was afflicted by ayn or sihr, and I lost 10 kilograms in 2 weeks, and I was very sick. I didn't want to eat anything. Is the time I saw myself the skinniest. One way I did realize that I lost that 10 kilograms, because at that time as well, it was the first time I saw my abs in my life. But one thing that made me realize how much weight I had lost is when I went to Spain, when I was a little bit better. I was in Mauritania at that time. I went to Spain and my father saw me. My father, first of all, he has sight problems. You know, he doesn't see from far and close. He needs to like force himself. But even like that, the first thing he said when he saw me, and I remember he was on his wheelchair, he said, "What happened to you? You're so skinny." And I said, SubhanAllah, if my father sees it, it must be serious. So that time as well, I'm not gonna lie, I went to Iraqi and I saw people just afflicted with sihr and yelling and saying crazy stuff, and I basically all that I seen then, that I seen in that situation, out of fear, it made me get closer to Allah, and I felt that high level of Iman again, but it was out of fear. Now this time when I was in Mauritania, that high peak level of Iman came back, but this time it was because of my connection with the tafsir, connection with the Quran and the ayat, and understanding in a different level than when I used to memorize the Quran back in Egypt. Because now my Arabic is better, you know, I'm more mature, I have different experiences. So I think that's the second stage. You know, you nostalgically think about those times, and you do something at one point, like I did this year, taking 3 months out of the year to just go and focus on Quran. You know, but the thing is, not everybody is capable of doing that. Who has that much time to take time off? Like, I would say that it's not realistic for most people, and this is why I'm very passionate about teaching my students how to earn money from anywhere, because I truly believe that it's something any practicing Muslim, not even, I was gonna say student of knowledge, but any practicing Muslim, for this particular reason that I'm telling you right now, that if you don't have that capability, you are not going to be able to take time off as you wish and have flexibility in your life. So nevertheless, I think that's the second stage from my own humble and limited experience. And then I think the third stage is those people who literally from the first moment they start practicing, they completely divorce. Talaqun ba'in ad-dunya, leave everything and go to the middle of the desert, go to some place like Damaj, some place like some Mahdara in the middle of the Sahara in Mauritania, and stay there for long years, decades, and literally adapt that as a lifestyle. They don't even remember how the world in the West looks like. And I think that's very unlikely. There's individuals like this that I have came across, but I think that even those individuals at one point, they realize like, okay, I need to earn a living. so they go back to the city or do something, and that causes them to have a decrease of Iman. Because I think it's inevitable. You have to have ups and downs of Iman. You know, even Allah Azza wa Jal told us in the Quran that the believers are those that when the ayat of the Quran are recited to them, their Iman increases. So obviously the opposite of that, the opposite understanding of that is that if you don't read the Quran and the ayat of the Quran, then your Iman will not increase. You know what I mean? And I had this conversation with someone not long ago, talking about how they were saying sometimes I need to pray to have an increase of Iman. And me, I was thinking, well, it's not really the, which is obviously not a absolute truth, but I was saying that it's not really the worship that increases your Iman, but rather the knowledge. And this is why Allah Azza wa Jalla says in the Quran, إِنَّمَا يَخْشَى اللَّهَ مِنْ عِبَادِهِ الْعُلَمَاء, that those who really and truly fear Allah Azza wa Jalla is al-ulama, the scholars. So yes, fair enough, when you worship Allah Azza wa Jalla, Allah gives you the tawfiq through His worship, through being thankful towards Him, to give you more of it. You know, and you can extract that from the ayah where Allah Azza wa Jalla says, وَإِذْ تَأَذَّنَ رَبُّكَ لَإِنْ شَكَرْتُمْ لَأَزِيدَنَّكُمْ. You know, that if you are thankful to Allah Azza wa Jalla, we will give you. And obviously the biggest way of being grateful and thankful is through ibadah. So I will leave you guys with this question. Oh, and then wait, there is one last stage, when there's one last type of people, which is those who, wal-iyadu billah, those who accept Islam, start practicing, go heavy, extremely and ignorantly heavy on the practice of certain things, you know, attaching themselves to certain fatawiyat and basically worshipping in a very extreme way, ala jahl, murakkab, you know, in a very ignorant way. They attach themselves to certain principles and this and that, and then out of nowhere they just snap out and stop practicing, and next thing you know, you see them in nightclubs and you know, doing fawahish and things that you would have never expected that to happen from those individuals. I think that's the scariest thing, wallahi, is to, I've seen people like that, and it's the scariest thing. And perhaps, you know, that could happen many times because of how arrogant they are in the beginning of their practice, and thinking they are better than everybody else around them, and that anybody that doesn't do this or doesn't do that, or doesn't listen to the sheikh, or doesn't listen to that sheikh, or doesn't you know, do certain specific things that might not even be necessary for him to do, is this and is that, and is or kafir or mubtadi' or mumayya or whatever it might be. So I've seen individuals like that. Wallahi, don't you ever think that you are better than anybody else. Don't you ever walk by a brother, by a sister, whether he doesn't wear how you think he should be wearing, or maybe he doesn't have a beard, or maybe she doesn't have a hijab on, or a correct hijab, or when you ever walk by any individual, any Muslim, and think that you are better than them, because your Iman is in between the asabi' of Ar-Rahman, and he can literally put a taba' fi qalbik. He can literally, you know, punish you by removing that guidance that he gave you, that you thought at one point that it was because of you, because of how great your understanding was, or how great you do certain things, or whatever it might be. Allah, may Allah protect us from that. With this being said, guys, what is your analysis on that sweetness, that honeymoon in the beginning of your faith, of your Iman, that peak level of Iman? Why can't we go back to that? And what should we do to have that ongoingly in our lives? That's the question that I will leave you guys to ponder with today. And I will see you guys in the comments for it. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.